Greetings. I just recently got through watching a video by Ziploc Gory talking about what was his favorite uh, superhero movie, which was The Incredibles. And I'm going to go ahead and touch on the subject of The Incredibles myself. Um, I decided not to post this up as a video response per se. Um, I've been doing a number of video responses lately, and I don't want to be the guy that's known for video responses. So I'm kind of laying off of that for a little bit. But yeah, I'm one of those guys that I'm not quite as emphatic a fan as Ziploc, but I am a fan nonetheless. Um, the Incredibles from beginning to end, because I had originally seen it at the show at the theater. From beginning to end, I thought was a thoroughly enjoyable, thoroughly entertaining movie, and I know that it would be easily in my top 10 as far as superhero movies go, and easily in my top 3 to 5 in terms of animated movies. But much, excuse me. But much like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, The Incredibles was another movie that I was waiting to see, or I was wondering when they were going to, excuse me, when they were going to put a sequel out. I kind of understood with Roger Rabbit because with Roger Rabbit you had to deal with two huge companies putting aside their differences and coming together. And the fact that they were able to do that one time might be a feat that won't be duplicated. So after a few years, I kind of gave up on the idea of them ever doing a sequel to that. And now I'm not so sure that I would want them to. But The Incredibles, on the other hand, I was basically waiting for a sequel when I came out of the theater. And but like Zip was saying, you don't want anything to be rushed or for it to simply be a cash grab, because you can basically tell when someone is in it for the love of the craft that they do, and when they're in it to turn a quick buck. But to go more into specificity about why I like the movie as it stands, one of the things that I liked was how the psyches of the Incredible family kind of married up with the powers that they had, which I think, while they weren't copying the Fantastic Four, it was definitely something of a blueprint. You could say Mr. Incredible was kind of headstrong, kind of stubborn, kind of wanted to, get things, push things through, and therefore his powers manifested as super strength. His wife was a nurturer. She was a caregiver. She wanted to help everybody, even if she couldn't, thereby stretching herself too thin. And her powers manifested with her being able to elongate, which made her Elastigirl. The son, he was always getting into mischief. He was always where he shouldn't be. He was always doing something that he shouldn't be doing, and doing it with a quickness, and therefore, super speed was how his power was manifested. And then Violet, being the sister, she was withdrawn. She was practically a hermit. She practically hid under her own skin, so to speak. More aptly put, having the hair usually cover her eyes, one or both, and you could almost say she was hiding in plain sight, and therefore her powers manifested as invisibility. Now, Frozone, Mr. Incredible's work buddy, it's kind of hard to isolate him in terms of his power set. What I think is that whether it was by intention or by accident, what had happened was given the stereotype that those of my complexion are not winter faring or cold faring people, they kind of just flipped the script and said, hey, we're going to go against convention and give this guy ice powers. And I was cool with that. So, no pun intended. So, everything, how it worked out just seemed to just fit into place. The character Edna, who headed this faculty of sorts, was also a designer. And when one of the Incredibles, I forget whether it was the husband or wife, had suggested capes, Edna was like, no capes, nothing good ever comes from them. And she just ran down a list of several heroes that had capes who had fell to bad circumstances, we'll say. And I thought that was priceless. Now, Jack, who to me is, he's not per se the Franklin Richards of the group, but the fact that he can do what he can do, if I had to compare him to anybody from an established universe, while it's not exact, I would say he's like a kid or an infant Super Skrull. He doesn't have the combined powers of his family, but or maybe the Super Adaptoid, but he can sort of he sort of has elemental type power that I think reflects his personality at a given time. And Syndrome, the villain of the story, I think he was probably the one that I found the most entertaining, even though he was the bad guy. And I wish I could remember this quote verbatim, but since I don't, I'll go ahead and paraphrase. I think Mr. Incredible got Syndrome to talking while he was captured, and Mr. Incredible, that is, and then Syndrome started talking about what his plans were, destroy the world, rule the world, whatever it was, and then he caught himself in mid-speak and looked at Mr. Incredible and said something like, "Oh, will you look here? You got me dialoguing again." Actually, I think he said monologuing, but I thought that was pretty much almost, excuse me, worth the price of admission itself. This was just a fantastic movie, and much like Zip, I would like to see, if a sequel is done, show these characters, to be a bit older. It's been over 10 years, I think. I think they could translate it into it being 10 years later, or whatever the time span is, and you would see uh, Violet and Dash um, um, maturing. I think Dash would be in his mid to late teens, and Violet would be in her early 20s, and or maybe just barely out of her teens herself. Um, and then Jack would probably be around the age that Dash was when the movie came out, and to see them three along with a few others, with mom and dad kind of like in the background a little bit, but still being supportive, I think would be an interesting thing to see. But if the movie doesn't get a sequel, then the one movie that is, I think, will stand the test of time. It is done so far, and I don't see any reason for that to change. Um, well, I think that's pretty much it. I think that I'm pretty much spent on how much I want to say about this. I just wanted to add my 2 cents in. So that's that. Anyone has Incredibles stories themselves, I'm all ears, or what have you. Until next time, night out.